Let's go out to our Avery Everett right now, who is standing by. Avery, we're told various things. I know you've heard some things on the scene there. Tell us what the latest is you're hearing.
Well, since we got here 20 minutes ago, the sound of sirens hasn't stopped. Chief McManus just tweeted out that there were 3 officers shot responding to a suicide in progress, multiple ambulances and even fire trucks right behind the Cornerstone Church sign. You can see that right over there. We were the first crew here at 1604 and Stone Oak Parkway. We've seen some other media crews parked just down the way. An ambulance is going underneath 1604. Matt, if you could pan over there to see it.
And I have to be thinking that
Hey, Steve, Steph, one more thing.
Yes. Go ahead, Avery.
Chief McManus just tweeted out 4th officer was hit. So this is 4 officers now that were shot. They're starting to block off the 1604 access road. It is right near Cornerstone Church. Like you said, this is right at the intersection of Stone Oak. But I did just have the chance to talk to 2 people who live inside the apartment complex. They got out safe. They tried to avoid it as quick as possible. They said they looked up and saw the SAPD helicopter. So you can see it right now actually above me as it's circling this apartment complex. We're going to try to drive down Stone Oak Parkway to see how far. I'm going to flip the camera, give you guys a view of, I'm going to give you a look over there. Can you start to see it, Steve and Steph? Do you see those lights?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, we can't turn left at this point. We have to turn right. So we can't go south on Stone Oak. We have to go north. So they have those lanes blocked off. I can count at this intersection 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 police vehicles.
A shooting in Stone Oak. 24 hours later, the dust has settled, but that investigation is far from over. San Antonio police officers shot, some of them ambushed by a gunman who may have had a death wish. We have new information tonight. 2 different sources have told KSAT that SAPD's SWAT unit deployed drones and tear gas during that standoff with the man who shot and injured those officers last night. In total, 7 officers injured by gunfire. All of those officers expected to be okay after a truly chaotic scene in Stone Oak. SAPD shared on Instagram earlier today that 6 officers have already been released from the hospital. The 7th expected to make a full recovery after having surgery today. We were all over the story last night at 10 o'clock. Our crews on the scene near the Sonterra Heights apartments on Stone Oak Parkway from about 9 last night till about 2:30 this morning. SAPD said officers were responding to a suicide in progress call. Sources say Brandon Poulos himself called 911 and a family member also called later after he stepped outside of his apartment with guns. Instead, when SAPD arrived on the scene, the 46-year-old Poulos started shooting at officers. At one point, he was shooting from under his truck, then from inside one of the apartment units. Residents and others nearby evacuated as that gunfire rang out throughout that apartment complex. What happened next was an hours-long standoff at that complex. Sources telling KSAT tonight that SAPD sent at least 1 drone and at least 1 police robot and tear gas into that apartment. Poulos shot the police robot and one of the drones. And like I mentioned earlier this evening, we learned from 2 different sources that standoff finally ended after they realized Poulos was dead after being shot by SAPD's SWAT team. Since this all began last night, we have learned a lot more about the suspect. Poulos was a Navy veteran who was out on bond at the time of the shooting, and he had a lengthy past of being in trouble with the law. His most recent arrest just last Saturday, 4 days ago. Court records show his charges that day included assault causing bodily injury family member, 2 counts of injury to an elderly person with intent to cause bodily injury, and 1 count of DWI second offense. He was also ordered by a judge not to possess firearms.
At some point, the DA and the sheriff just have to do their damn job and remember the oath that you took to uphold the law.
There's frustration in the force tonight. Considering his criminal past, you can't help but wonder, how was this man able to not only be out on bond, but also be in a position to shoot at San Antonio police officers? It's a question the night team's Avery Everett tells us the San Antonio Police Officers Association is asking loudly tonight.
It's due time that something is done.
The San Antonio Police Officers Association tonight is calling on Bexar County for accountability.
Something needs to change. It's a detriment to this community.
Just 24 hours after a shooting in San Antonio injured 7 police officers.
What did your night look like last night?
chaotic.
These officers were responding to a suicide in progress call on Wednesday night, and they arrived at the apartment complex off Stone Oak Parkway. Brandon Poulos started shooting. He barricaded himself for more than 6 hours until officers found him shot dead. By Sapoa's count, 18 San Antonio police officers have been shot since 2022.
This is a trend that is unheard of. We signed up to do a job to protect the community. No one ever signs up to get shot.
Poulos has a lengthy criminal history, with his most recent arrest on Saturday involving assault. That's why Sapoa President Danny Diaz is coming forward.
We're all for giving people chances, but when it comes to 3, 4, 5, 10, 25 chances, and you're giving them chances from incidents where they've hurt individuals, either by assaults, shootings, or even killing individuals, that's gone too far.
Diaz says Bexar County has a problem of keeping repeat offenders locked up, citing a system of failures.
It's all intertwined.
Diaz is calling on the Bexar County District Attorney Joe Gonzalez to prosecute more violent offense cases and also ask magistrate judges for more appropriate bond amounts. We reached out to the DA's office following this interview. An emailed statement in part reads, "Under Texas law, a person is entitled to be released on bond unless circumstances exist that prevent that person's release. It is the duty of the magistrate judge to set a bond for a defendant appearing before the magistrate. The district attorney's office cannot prevent the release of a person in custody requesting a bond except for very limited circumstances that were not present here." End quote. But we followed up with another question, considering the DA can still ask for a higher bond. The DA's office said it asked for a higher total bond, but the judge ultimately reduced it. Diaz is also asking Bexar County Sheriff Javier Salazar to change policies barring people with certain medical conditions from being accepted into the jail. In response, the sheriff's office says Diaz's claims are inaccurate and irrelevant to this case, saying in part, this policy only applies to prisoners brought to the facility who exhibit specific medical symptoms and require hospital clearance. It does not prevent an agency from making an arrest. As these officers recover, one thing is top of mind across San Antonio.
Our hearts go out to the officers, their families.
Questions still unanswered, but 7 officers still alive.
I also asked the Sapoa president about the condition of those officers. He says all day Thursday he had been in and out of the hospital checking on everyone. As far as we know, there is only one officer left in the hospital. He says he's surrounded by his family and his unit. Avery Everett, KSAT 12 News.
By the way, the bond for Brandon Poulos was set at $38,000. He only had to post $3,800 to get out of jail. This is a story we're going to be continuing to follow for a long time as we continue to unpack the shooting suspect's history, what happened at that apartment complex. You can follow along on ksat.com as we learn new information in this developing story.